All right, I want to do a little breakdown on um, the price action today. And I think it's really interesting. I think it's really interesting what we saw. And I just kind of want to dig into it a little bit. So, yesterday, I posted pre market that the volume here in this zone and over here was spotty strength by the bulls. I said yesterday that a rapid break higher and then a taper and a retest of this build could be in play. I was thinking that a pop up to 30,000, which you got today, could result in us coming back to the low 2800s, between 9800s. And so I kind of want to break down why I saw that, and then talk a little bit about all this interesting price action that's happened around here. So we had essentially two different sub regions, distribution zones up north of this area right here. And then we had a area down here that we're kind of fighting in. When we go out, we look at the macro a little bit closer. Our entire kind of distribution is basically in here, and we have this area right here, which we need to kind of repair a little bit. Then we have what I call a warm butter zone, and this warm butter zone was a really low volume node right here, and it was separating this volume node from this volume node. And I made the call yesterday that we are going to see chop in this for an extended amount of time, and it chopped there like basically all night long. Then this morning we had inflation news, and the inflation news took us all the way from this low volume node, and we screamed up to 1.2 or 1.5 points above 30K. Then we started marching to the right, and this was kind of a slow march to the right, but it was a slow march with a massive range, right? So we have 150 point range right here, and I mean you can look at all those candles. We're basically at 150 points all the way across. So we're looking at it, and it's basically like, seems like damn near every 20 minutes for the first hour and a half after the data came out, we're just marching sideways in this 150 point range. I got chewed up in that. The ATRs were too high, and I was sizing up. I was kind of tilted. But the base here, the base of all of this was all of the solid volume that we had established over the course of the last few days. And so this wasn't like the most surprising thing in the world that this held us up. Additionally, this attempt to break down here was kind of a half-ass attempt on the part of the bears. They just could not get any traction down here. Now we kind of have some blue lines that played today, and let's kind of count some of those off, right? So we've got the top of this range right here. This 20,000 or 29,800 whatever 95. This zone, this line actually has played. It's kind of been important going all the way back to. I think it actually goes back all the way back to here. Let's see here. 2095. It's kind of this point before there's kind of this. Let's see here. It was here. There's the bottom of this taper over here. I'm sorry. And we got the God, look at this. Look at this. Look at this level over here, right? Right here. It's the top of all these wicks. It's the top of these wicks. It's the bottom of this wick right here. It's a little bit deeper. Anyway. Let's see here. Where else are we looking at? 28. Yeah, well, whatever. Let's just continue on with our business. So, this level's been in play. And this level's been in play. Absolutely. And then down here, we saw this level in play with a bounce off of basically the close down here. After CPI, or when CPI hit, we came down and we whacked that 5-day and 25-day point of control. It's pretty interesting. With the volume that we have that we've been putting in up here, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing, the POC migrate higher. Of course, the 5-day is going to go first, but yeah. So this is what we're looking at now. Come over here, and we look at the 5,000 tick. This is kind of like that's kind of like the whole area that we've been dealing with. And then this was our range early. This was, low volume node up here. And then we had the low volume node was down here, but that ended up filling out to the downside. But when we break this down and we look at, how this how all this played. I made all my money in this. I was longing this, and then I was longing this little bounce on here too. We got this thin blue line right here, which was like our initial pullback. We did a double bottom off of it. We came up, we hit this blue line. Came down a little bit lower. I thought we were going to hit this one, but we didn't. Came up and we bounced this one again. Bounced a VWAP. These are VWAP bounces too, right? And then the VWAP held us down, and then the VWAP hit it. Came up, and that 890 held us to the downside, or held us up. Eventually, we broke it with this big red candle right here. Back down to that blue line. Back up to that one. And then finally, at the end of the day, we hit that 800. I'd be interested to see something. There we go. I switched this over to a line chart. Kind of denoises it a little bit. Yeah, so this was the top of the CPI impulse. Pretty incredible how many, say 90. It's weird, right? Because it's basically really close to the POC. It's close to being the POC. It worked out as resistance, but then worked as a magnet, and then it worked as support here, or resistance down here, resistance here. Kind of interesting how that played. And then here we can see this consolidation in the zone before he popped higher. Then we came back to this guy. Then we hit this blue line. Bam, 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 bam. That's pretty interesting. That's pretty interesting. So that's how we're seeing it. That is how we're seeing it. That's a little wrap up of the day. So if we had to guess going into tomorrow, what we're gonna see, how price is going to work. Yeah, that's the question, right? Because is this a test to the top, and then we failed, and now we're gonna go all the way back down to the bottom of this zone? I think so. I think we could come down to the bottom here, and kind of close the overnight gap. And then it'll be interesting to see. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we broke through the warm butter and got ourselves into this area. Part of me is thinking we're going to see this area right here, the 750 to 600, get repaired, and we're going to see we'll see a little volume fill in right there. That's kind of my guess, is that 750 to 600 will be a consolidated range tomorrow. But I think we have more economic news, so who knows?